Have you ever stood by the ocean, watched a massive container ship glide across the horizon, and wondered, what on earth powers that beast? These colossal vessels, some stretching longer than 4 football fields and carrying the weight of a small city, don't just run on regular gas like your car. So, what's the secret fuel that propels these giants of the sea across vast oceans? Let us dive into the world of marine fuel and uncover the powerhouse that keeps global trade moving. The answer is a substance known as heavy fuel oil, or HFO, and when we say heavy, we mean it. Forget the clear, refined gasoline or diesel you're used to. Picture the thickest, darkest, most stubborn residue left at the very bottom of the barrel after crude oil has been refined. It's a tar-like, viscous liquid, so thick that at room temperature you could almost stand a spoon up in it. This is the stuff that fuels over 60% of the world's shipping fleet. It's often called bunker fuel, a name that harks back to the days of steamships when coal was stored in bunkers. Today, the name sticks, but the fuel is liquid. So why use this seemingly difficult substance? The answer, as with many things in global industry, boils down to 2 key factors: energy density and cost. Heavy fuel oil packs an incredible punch. It contains a tremendous amount of energy in a relatively small volume, which is absolutely crucial for ships making long-haul voyages across the Pacific or Atlantic. They need a fuel that can take them thousands of miles without constant refueling. A ship might take on thousands of tons of this fuel at once, enough to power its journey from Shanghai to Los Angeles and back. And then there's the price. Because HFO is a leftover product of the refining process, the dregs after more valuable fuels like gasoline, jet fuel, and diesel have been extracted, it's significantly cheaper. For a shipping company operating on razor-thin margins, where fuel can account for over half of their total operating costs, this price difference is a game changer. Using a cheaper fuel allows them to transport goods around the world at a cost that keeps the prices of everything from your sneakers to your smartphone relatively low. Essentially, this sludgy, inexpensive fuel is a hidden hero of our globalized economy. But working with heavy fuel oil isn't as simple as just pumping it into an engine. Remember how we said it's almost solid at room temperature? Well, you can't exactly run an engine on what is essentially asphalt. Before it can be used, HFO needs to be heated, and not just a little bit. On board the ship, the fuel is stored in massive heated tanks, kept at a temperature of around 40 to 50 degrees Celsius just to keep it from solidifying. But that's not even hot enough for the engine. When it's time to use the fuel, it's pumped through a series of purifiers and heaters. The purifiers spin the fuel at high speeds to remove water, sludge, and any solid impurities, things you definitely don't want getting into a multi-million-dollar engine. After purification, it's heated even further, sometimes up to 130 to 150 degrees Celsius. At this high temperature, the fuel becomes thin enough to be atomized, sprayed as a fine mist into the engine's cylinders, where it can combust properly. It's a complex, energy-intensive process just to prepare the fuel for use. The ship essentially has its own mini refinery on board. Now let's talk about the engines that consume this fuel. This slow, deliberate rotation is incredibly efficient. Each massive piston, which can be nearly a meter in diameter, travels a long distance in its cylinder, allowing for a very complete and powerful combustion of the heavy fuel oil. This slow, powerful turning is what spins the gigantic propeller, which can be up to 10 meters in diameter, pushing the ship through the water with immense force. It's a perfect marriage of a high-energy fuel and an engine designed specifically to extract every last bit of power from it, converting that chemical energy into the raw kinetic force needed to move hundreds of thousands of tons of steel and cargo. However, the story of heavy fuel oil isn't all about power and efficiency. There's a significant environmental side to this tale. Because HFO is the bottom of the barrel residue, it's also where many of the impurities from the original crude oil end up. The most notable of these is sulfur. Traditional heavy fuel oil can have a sulfur content up to 3.5%, which is thousands of times higher than the sulfur content in the diesel used for cars and trucks. When this high sulfur fuel is burned, it releases sulfur oxides, primarily sulfur dioxide, into the atmosphere. These emissions are a major contributor to acid rain, which can harm forests, soils, and freshwater ecosystems. They also form particulate matter, tiny airborne particles that can cause serious respiratory and cardiovascular health problems in humans. For decades, the shipping industry was one of the largest emitters of sulfur oxides globally. The plumes of smoke you see rising from a ship's funnel were carrying these pollutants far and wide. Recognizing this problem, the international community decided to act. The International Maritime Organization, or IMO, is the United Nations agency responsible for the safety and security of shipping and the prevention of marine and atmospheric pollution by ships. In a landmark decision, the IMO introduced a new regulation, known as IMO 2020. This rule, which came into effect on January 1, 2020, was a massive shakeup for the entire shipping industry. The IMO 2020 regulation drastically lowered the maximum allowable sulfur content in marine fuel from 3.5% down to just 0.5%. This was a huge reduction, and it forced shipping companies to make some major changes. They were left with three main options to comply. The first option was to switch to a new type of fuel. Oil refineries responded to the new demand by developing very low sulfur fuel oil, or VLSFO. This is still a heavy fuel oil blend, but it's been formulated or treated to meet the new 0.5% sulfur limit. This has become the most popular choice for many ship operators, as it requires the least amount of modification to their existing vessels. They can simply start buying and using the new, cleaner, but more expensive fuel. The second option was to continue using the old, cheap, high-sulfur heavy fuel oil, but to clean the exhaust gases before they are released into the atmosphere. This is done by installing a system known as an exhaust gas cleaning system, or more commonly, a scrubber. A scrubber works by spraying a liquid, usually seawater or a chemical mixture, into the ship's exhaust funnel. This liquid reacts with the sulfur oxides, capturing them and preventing them from being released into the air. The cleaned exhaust gas that leaves the funnel is then compliant with the new regulations. While this requires a significant upfront investment to install the scrubber, it allows the ship to continue burning the cheaper high-sulfur fuel, potentially saving money in the long run. The third and most forward-looking option is to switch to alternative fuels altogether. The most prominent of these right now is liquefied natural gas, or LNG. LNG is cryogenically cooled natural gas that becomes a liquid, making it much more compact to store on a ship. When burned, LNG emits virtually no sulfur oxides or particulate matter, and it also significantly reduces nitrogen oxide and carbon dioxide emissions compared to heavy fuel oil. New ships are now being designed and built to run on LNG, and we are seeing the first generation of these cleaner vessels entering service. However, retrofitting an existing ship to run on LNG is incredibly expensive and complex, so this option is mostly for new builds. The transition hasn't been without challenges, but the impact of IMO 2020 has been profound. Global sulfur dioxide emissions from shipping have plummeted by an estimated 70%. It represents one of the most significant and successful single environmental actions ever taken in the transportation sector. It has led to cleaner air, especially around major port cities and coastal areas, improving public health and reducing environmental damage. So the next time you see one of those majestic container ships on the ocean, you'll know the incredible story behind its power. It's a tale of a thick, tar-like fuel born from the depths of an oil refinery that needs to be heated, purified, and pressurized just to be used. It's about colossal, slow-turning engines that efficiently convert that fuel's immense energy into motion. And it's an evolving story of an industry undergoing a massive transformation, moving towards a cleaner, more sustainable future for global shipping. The world of heavy fuel oil is complex, but it's a critical piece of the puzzle that makes our modern, interconnected world possible. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into the world of marine fuel interesting, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the amazing engineering that powers our world. We'll see you in the next one.